This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me on vacation, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. My cousin didn't even wait like 5 minutes. He was like, everything's open, boom! I need to get out of town, get out of Dodge, get some R&R. Man, you live in the good life. I can appreciate that. I think it's time for me to get a vacation in here too, man. But I want to wait a little bit. My stance will be that once everything's open on the 8th, thank you, Governor Whitner, is that I'm going to take 30 days, kind of observe, see how everyone is doing, see if anything spreads because of all the protests and people kind of reintegrating back into their social life. So Gretchen Whitmer, came out with great news last week. Everything's open. People kind of have already been living that way already with Memorial Day and things like that. So I feel like the numbers in relation to COVID-19 have kind of been at a reasonable level. So I'm just going to take another 30 days, hang out at home, drink at home. And if everything's good with the restaurants, then I'll start acting like Adam, and then I'll get out and about and take a vacation.
Look, man, they said up north was wide open. Figured I'd come up here, check it out for you, let you know, report back. What I'll tell you is it's not all wide open.
Okay.
You still got to wear some masks. You still got to take measures. I was not as pumped up as I probably should have been or could have been, but it's cool, man. You get to go out, you get to interact with people. I was able to go to an establishment and have a drink. That was fun. But otherwise, it's not too bad, dude. You need to you need to go on vacation yourself a little bit. Just try it.
Absolutely. So I know everybody out there listening in podcast land is interested in some mask talk, but what kind of mask you wearing? White? I got finally the ones that I ordered, the N95s, all black. So I'm looking like a renegade, and it's fun. So I feel a lot more safe when I wear it, and it's hot though, and I wear glasses. It's the worst because they fog up. I've tried every which way. So if you see me, most likely you're going to see me with glasses on my hair and me with the mask trying to make my way through, but I can't wear it without fogging up, and it gets hot in that thing. So 15 minutes at a time, get in and out of the store, pump your gas, do what you got to do, but can't find one. It's uncomfortable, especially if you wear glasses. Mine's all black.
Yeah, dude, they're not the best thing. I've got a nice little paper one, nothing special, nothing fancy. It's just there. I don't like wearing it. You're right. They get hot as hell. They're so uncomfortable, but it's what you got to do. Up north, you got to wear them when you walk into a restaurant or you walk into a bar, and then once you get seated, you can take it off. So you just got to wear it for a few moments, and that's it.
So what was the setup? Was it every other table, every other thing? Did people embrace each other? Were people still going up to the bar? You know how it is when you're at the bar and it gets a little crowded, and if someone's over your shoulder, hey, I need a Bud Light, and they kind of creep up into your personal space. Whereas I feel like I'm still in that zone where I'm like, hey, back off, partner. Give me that 6 feet, man. So that's why I'm not going to no bar.
It's not real busy like that. Okay, so good. At least where I'm at, it's not real busy like that. But, I went out to eat yesterday, and when I was out to eat, people were sitting side by side with each other up at the bar. So I'm assuming that they were a group or they came in together. And when I got seated right next to a table. So I was sitting next to somebody. There wasn't there was a table in between us or anything like that. I'm assuming you can, there's precautions being taken. All of the staff is wearing masks. And you're not sitting back to back with people, but there are still people who are right to your right hand side, and it's not 6 feet. It's probably closer to 2 or 3 feet apart.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. I'm not really worried about it. I tell all the waiters and waitresses, I'm like, look, you can take your mask off. I'm not freaking out. They're like, no, we got to wear them. I'm like, I get it. I'm just letting you know it's okay.
Gotcha.
So I'm not freaking out about it, man. I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, all right, I'm over it.
You're over it. Let's go. Well, the good thing is, the world is opening up slowly. We're hearing, unfortunately, baseball may not have a season because they may not strike a deal, but you heard earlier on Wednesday that the NBA's coming to an agreement a little bit, kind of like a round-robin play-in type thing. It's interesting. It's unique, and I think that the NHL and the NBA are making strides to come back with testing. So the sport that really is lagging behind is Major League Baseball. And before we start talking Lions football, I just want to get your sense. it's fascinating, and we've talked about it in regards to these owners and these players trying to haggle, but it just really seems petty to me that major league owners and the union have yet to decide how to, you figure with all this time that they've had to plan this out, that they'd have a plan in place. And for the owners to reject the latest, the latest arrangement is fascinating, and no counteroffers are being made back and forth. So things are on pause, and we're inching ever so close. If we get to July with no plan, there's a realistic situation here where baseball could flush their reputation down the toilet. I'm shocked that they're going down this road because people in America right now are focusing on a lot of other things. And if you assume that you're just going to be around forever, you could take an $11 billion business and flush it down the toilet within the matter of months. Because for me, if baseball decides to flush away another season back in 94 and now in 2020, it's just, for me, it'd be like a huge slap in the face, a huge offense. I probably won't be as interested in much as baseball because, look, man, you can't have billionaires arguing with millionaires. Get the deal done, figure it out, get back on the diamond and be leaders. To have labor dispute at this time in our history is totally and completely unacceptable.
I don't think baseball can survive not having another season. Look, I think there's going to be a season. I think I find it weird that the baseball owners, billionaires, are negotiating the way they're negotiating. Players already signed a collective bargaining agreement with them, basically saying, "Hey, yeah, we're willing to come back. These are the demands." And owners are like, "Yeah, that's great." And now owners want to switch it all because they might not be able to fill stadiums. It's so disingenuous on the owners' behalfs. And it's kind of frustrating, especially watching what they do with these minor league players and their minor league systems. Like, you're not taking care of any of your people. How do you not take care of your people? Baseball can't survive another one of these types of situations. That's why I believe that there will be another season. I think what you're going to end up seeing is it's going to be a shortened season. It'll probably be 82 games. I think players will have to take half of what they normally make, half of their pay. But there's a season's going to get done. I don't see them. I just don't. I think the owners realize that you can't risk not playing baseball again. You're going to flush all your fans away. I mean, baseball and hockey are like two of the four major sports that struggle to bring anybody new in. I'm a baseball fan. You're a baseball fan, and we're older. I mean, at this point, shit, you're like 100. And I'm like right behind you at 76. So, I mean, like, we're old as hell, man. Young kids don't want to sit down and watch a baseball game. Like, watching a baseball game is kind of monotonous. You really think about it. It's a little bit boring, takes a little bit of time. I don't mind it. I find it quite enjoyable, but it is boring compared to other sports that have transitions in their games. Basketball, up and down. Hockey, up and down. Football can change on basically the flip of a coin, and you got everything going back the other way. Baseball's not like that, man. It's not. So I don't think it can survive another one of these holdouts, another one of these breakdowns in negotiation between owners and players. And if I'm the owners, there is a chunk of the pie that you're going to get. You've got to be smart about this. You got to do it the right way. Protect yourself, and you have to compensate your players. Your players are the ones out there playing. They're the ones who make you all the damn money. So I feel like they're negotiating in bad faith.
Yeah, it's just a fascinating look at how you have two sides that have their own agenda, and sometimes sometimes you're supposed to, really put the sport ahead of your own agendas. And right now, I don't know. I'm not as confident as you are heading into now. We're it's going to be here quick. We're in the first week of June. A couple weeks now, and you don't have a deal. You got to remember, you're still going to need a couple weeks of spring training. You're going to need a couple weeks to get acclimated. So if you don't get a deal done, I don't think baseball wants to start a season in mid-August. You want to kind of have something in place, but it's posturing. I feel like, if there's a deadline date that's established, I think they're going to try and meet it. So it's going to be tough. But I hope that they put the sport ahead of their own agendas. Sometimes it's tough when money's involved in big money. And I just wonder, if you're the athletes, if you're Major League Baseball and you're the union, you probably should be like, yeah, open your books. You're going to lose all this money? Show us. You made all this money last year. Show us that you're losing all this money. And the owners will be like, well, I feel like both sides are just needing to be a little bit more flexible and a little bit more willing to negotiate in good faith and good standing so that we can get a season, but we'll see. It's tough times, man. Tough times with sports. I'm curious to see how they're all going to come back in these new ways with the NHL, NBA, if people watch it. I haven't checked out the Lance Armstrong documentary. I heard it was good. Haven't done a lot of watching sports in terms of the baseball out there in Korea or anything like that. So for me, it'll be a reacclimation back into sports when live sports happen. I'm kind of probably going to be a little bit more invested in the NBA to see how this new arrangement works out. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Between the NBA and NHL, is there one that you're more excited to see return?
Probably the NHL. I'm a bigger hockey fan than I am a basketball fan.
Absolutely.
The one thing coming out of the Michael Jordan documentary that I took away was when I was a kid, I was a massive, massive basketball fan. And somewhere along the line, just my love for the NBA kind of died. And I don't know if it's just because of what the league has turned into or how the game is played. But when I was a kid, I knew everybody on every team. I was so involved with the sport. And now as an adult, I'm just not. So if I had to pick between one of those two, it's definitely the NHL. NHL playoffs, I think, are the best playoffs around anyways. So I can't wait to watch a couple hockey games on my brand new TV in my living room. So I'm looking forward to that. The NBA, it'll be fun to see what happens. But out of the two, it's for me, it's hockey all the way. What about you?
It's gonna be a little bit more of the NBA. I just want to see how this round robin thing takes place. Well, if you're a fan of the Pistons, it's going to be not good news because the Pistons won't be involved. Their season will officially end because
that's great news.
It's great.
It's a lotto pick, bro.
Lotto pick, baby. Yeah, that's true. Wings and Pistons don't get to play in the reformatted leagues. Hey, what are you gonna do? I'm still curious to see how the general manager search takes place with the Pistons. Interesting look there. Dwayne Casey doing good stuff in terms of advocating for social change. So he's a good coach, a good fit. It's just unfortunate for him in that he came in expecting one thing, and the organization probably did a little bit of pulling the rug out from under him in terms of now rebuilding. But hey, you got to do it. So absolutely, it's rebuilding time for both the Pistons and the Wings. But I want to say this: could it be in the next 12 months? Rebuilding time for the Lions. You and I both were kind of raising an eyebrow when we read that on ESPN, Dan Graziano kind of put out a list in terms of a ranking in terms of how committed teams are to their starting quarterback. And Matthew Stafford, according to ESPN, only 27th, meaning that potentially if Stafford doesn't have a good season, that the Lions might be willing to bite the bullet, pay a huge amount to move on from him. And so when you and I read that, we were like, whoa, could we be starting initially at the forefront of some pressure for Matthew Stafford? And, it's nice to talk about. It's great to debate. You and I have been doing it now for 5 years in terms of every year going, this is going to be the year. Year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10. No, it's going to be year 11. Oh, he got hurt. Year 12 it is. So throughout the length of the podcast, we've been trying to move on from Matthew Stafford. But this year, we could be entering into that zone of discussion. But just based on how much the Lions love and are attached to Stafford, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. So that's why that list surprised me, because I think, in my mind, based on my ranking, it'd be number 2. I think that Bob Quinn has passed on drafting quarterbacks. I think the organization is just really telling Quinn and Patricia, make it work with Matthew Stafford. So while I want it to happen, I want to move on because I think we've hit the ceiling. I don't believe it. I don't think that Matthew Stafford is on his way out. But you might have a little different opinion. You think that the supporters of Matthew Stafford should be a little concerned that maybe his time in Detroit is starting to, the sand through the hourglass may be starting now to seep through the other side? Is time a ticking on Stafford?
I see stormy clouds ahead, my friend. Stormy clouds.
Oh, wow.
Look, I was surprised that they didn't go out and draft a quarterback this year. That shocked me. I think next year's draft looks like it's going to be chock full of QBs. I could see the Detroit Lions moving up and grabbing the quarterback that they want, the one that they cherish. I don't think that they were as invested in Tua as I was. And once Joe Burrow was gone, I don't think they had there was nobody there that they really wanted. But I think next year I could see them move up and go get their quarterback. Look, Matt Stafford's, the way his contract is structured, he will count $6 million in dead cap money. That's a pittance. That is nothing. Absolutely nothing. He is owed $12.5 million for 2022, as well as a bunch of different bonuses that he's going to get 2023. Basically, all of his money's already wrapped up. He becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2023. So he's able to go do whatever he wants. I could see them moving on from him next year. I could see them trading him away, getting something back in return, and going and grabbing their quarterback. He is a guy who I've had a little bit of an about face on, right? I hated him. And then he showed something. He showed that he kind of gets it. He knows what he's doing out there. And I think Matt Stafford's a very good quarterback. I think if you were to put Matt Stafford on just about any other team, he probably has won a couple playoff games, probably maybe even won a Super Bowl. You know, it's just this team, this organization. And if this team is going to go underneath a rebuild, right? And that's what Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia have talked about for a little bit now. We've got to kind of redo this whole thing. If you have to do that, you got to cut the head off the horse, and that head is Matt Stafford. At some point, you got to move on from him. It makes more financial sense to move on from him next year than it does this year. And if you wanted to, next year's quarterback class should be a little bit deeper than this year's quarterback class. This was a pretty deep class. So I could see this team moving on from Matt Stafford soon as the offseason, trading him away, and then going and getting whoever their future quarterback's going to be. And remember, you've got Chase Daniels, reliable backup. I don't think he's very good, but he's a reliable backup.
Wow. See, I just see that with Matthew Stafford, he's the ultimate survivor. I think he'll do just enough this year. Let's say they squeak their way in and are close to the 7th seed, or actually indeed earn a 7th seed. You know how much positive regard he will earn? His back injury, just based on the fact that this guy is a father now. He really has turned the tide, where I think it was before the season, before 2020, it was like 55-45 against Stafford. And now, as we sit recording, it's 55-45 in favor of Stafford because of the fact that he's a warrior. People perceive him now as a guy that has been mistreated by the organization, and now that he's been finally given some weapons, that it's on him. So I just don't see the fan base really supporting moving on from Stafford, which is a shame, because it's like there could be better out there. Why not gamble? But the fans are so scared, so fearful of worse, that the number one thing they will say when they call up radio shows or listen to podcasts, those that support Stafford will say, who are you going to get? Who's out there? And Vito looked on SI All Lines. It looked at some quarterbacks potentially that you could pay attention to. But, yeah, there's no clear-cut quarterback in college unless you tank for Trevor. There's no quarterback in college right now that you say, okay, you have to go get. So that's why so many fans are still supporting Matthew Stafford. I think he'll do enough. I think this season he will perform at the level that is needed to keep the fan base on his side. And I think, be prepared. We could do this entire run, 500 podcasts. We're going to be approaching 400. We could do 500 of these podcasts with one quarterback under center for the Lions. It's Matthew Stafford, because he's only 32. Think about it. He has a good season. He gets another 5-year extension. Think about the money that they could give him. They probably will give him around 20. I don't think they give him anywhere near 25, but this is a guy that's made a bunch of money. He could take $20 million. He'd probably do 5 years, $100 million. He could be here from the time he was 21 until 40 with really nothing to show for it, and they would do it. The Lions are the organization that would extend Matthew Stafford. That's just the way it is.
So when his contract comes done, he'll be 30, he'll be going on 35. Do you see them extending him one more time?
I could see it, right?
Because I can't. He's a 35-year-old quarterback who hasn't won anything for you. Why would you give him more money? That's why I think this year was such a miss with their draft and not going out and grabbing a quarterback like Tua. He could have sat behind Stafford for a year, maybe even 2, and then next thing you know, he comes on and shells out. I find this team and this organization, I think they're going to be in a really tough spot, because it's win now mode, right? So you win now, you don't get the advantage of grabbing that first overall draft pick, or even something in the top 5, something that they had this year. And so your capital to get a high-end quarterback starts to diminish as you go past that 5th pick, I don't know if this team is going to be able to rebound as Matt Stafford ages. I just don't, unless you end up trading for somebody that you really like, or there's a backup quarterback out there that you're like, oh yeah, we should go get him, and all of a sudden he shows something, almost like when Washington drafted RG3 and they drafted Kirk Cousins, that was a 4th round pick that panned out. So unless the Lions are going to do something like that, I don't know. And, unless another team has a quarterback on their roster that you think is going to be, I guess in this case, the next Kirk Cousins, which whatever that means, I don't know if this team is positioning itself in the correct way to be able to move on from Matt Stafford when it's time to move on from Matt Stafford. So I've got some concerns there, but I could see this team, if they do things correctly, you could move on from him. 1, it's not going to hurt your pocketbooks. 2, you go and you grab your guy and you can maybe have him sit behind him for a year and then just move on, just trade him. So I see stormy clouds in the future for Matt Stafford and this Lions organization.
What kind of season? Because, obviously a lot of people make bold predictions. Some people will say he could be MVP. Some people could say he's going to throw for 5,000 yards. I wrote in a bold prediction piece that he's going to lead the Lions to the elusive playoff victory in front of no fans. Because I know you're hearing the whispers and rumors that what's going to happen, and it's the fear of all Lions fans. And we're not scared to lay it out here. We know it. We read it. Heck, we'll probably even sling it and believe it too. The Lions, start out 6-0. They're looking like world beaters. Everything's going great. DeAndre Swift is amazing. He's the next coming of Alvin Kamara. He's lighting it up in fantasy. Everybody's talking about the Lions, the defense. Jeff Okudah is going to, start his own island, just like Revis. Okudah Island takes off. Stafford's lighting it up. And then what happens? COVID comes back. The second wave hits, and the Lions are just besieged by injuries or COVID, or the fans will not be able to attend games anymore. And so everybody's waiting for it. The shoe to drop. Lions 13-3, about to get that first elusive home playoff game. And the governor comes out on December 30th, and she's like, sorry, guys, no fans. The Lions will play at Ford Field, their first playoff game ever in front of no fans. And everybody's waiting for it. Or the season, the NFL 2020 season, will end abruptly with the Lions atop of the division. We don't have a plan. The Lions just will be screwed. It's coming, cuz if the universe pauses sports again in the fall, the Lions are going to be atop of the division. It. It's coming, guys. Brace for it. Get your seats down. Those seats where you're just waiting and you got to brace yourself. Hold on tight, because if the Lions are in first place in October, November, good Lord God, please don't at least I'll say this. I will pray that please don't let the season get disrupted because of COVID.
Dude, I could see it happening.
Exactly right.
How apropos for this organization.
Oh, my God.
This loser organization that has done nothing, absolutely nothing, but cause us heartbreak and heartache every single year. I could see it happening. This would be the whip topping with your cherry all on top.
Yeah, right? That would just be the icing on the cake of how everything is tough with the Detroit Lions. Oh, my God. That'd be unbelievable. But let's switch gears here to our final topic, because I think the other relevant piece of information regarding the Lions involves 2 players that are very important right now, at least for the 2020 season. Left tackle Taylor Decker, wide receiver Kenny Golladay. Most people believe Golladay is in line for a big contract. I don't think people buy in or want him to be the highest paid, so Lions supporters don't want him making more than $22 million. They expect and they believe that if Golladay is to be extended by general manager Bob Quinn, he should get in the neighborhood of $17 to $20 million, be in the top 5, but they're not ready yet to pay him like he's number 1. The other player that may be in line for an extension, or the Lions may take a wait-and-see approach, is Taylor Decker, because he's dealt with injury. He did, struggle a little bit at the early onset of last year, but he came on and showed his true value. So I think if you're going to ask me which one is going to get signed first, I think it's going to get Golladay. He's going to get the Brinks truck backed up into his bank account. I think Taylor Decker has to have a productive season. Otherwise, the Lions could just as easily move on from him if he doesn't produce, because obviously he's got great talent, but they could move on from him quickly if he doesn't show what his medal is this year. So he's got a big season ahead, and I think if he does show, if he does produce at a high level, I think the Lions will retain him. I think in the end, both will be re-signed and extended. Golladay first, Taylor Decker at the end of the 2020 season. What say you? Who do you think is more important, and how do you see it shaking out with the value of these two guys that have been drafted by Bob Quinn?
I hate agreeing with you, but I think you laid it out perfectly. I think the way it's going to end up working out is Golladay will get extended first, and then it'll be Ragnow following. I mean, Ragnow is your best offensive lineman. He's the best player you have on that offensive front. He's your center. It only makes sense for you to extend him and to bring him along. Look, good offensive linemen don't ever hit free agency. It's just what happens, right? And as far as Kenny Golladay goes, he was the 7th best wide receiver in the league last year, and he did most of that damage with alternating quarterbacks, guys who were either banged up or guys who were less than Matt Stafford. So imagine if he gets a full season with Matt Stafford and Matt Stafford performs the way he looked like he was performing through the first half of last year before he went down with his back injury. There's no reason Kenny Golladay does not get extended and does not get all that money. You said, what, $17 to $22 million? I could see it all day. Both these guys, if you're Bob Quinn, if you can't find a way to make both these guys work underneath your salary cap, what are you doing? You can't keep drafting guys and then losing the good talent that you have. You have to be able to extend them at least one contract after you bring them in as a draft pick. And that's what you're doing with both Kenny Golladay and Frank Ragnow. You're going to extend them for their first big contract. That's what you want to do. It's what you have to do. This organization hasn't done a good enough job drafting to where you can just sit there and reload with other guys in the draft. It just doesn't happen like that. So I see both these guys getting extended. I think they both have to be. Kenny Golladay is your best wide receiver, and Frank Ragnow is your best offensive lineman. And both those guys help that offensive unit as a whole, help Matt Stafford. If you're Matt Stafford, if the issue is money and you're Matt Stafford, you better go in there and restructure a contract to help these guys out. Because at this point in your career, you're really nothing without these guys. You need them as much as they need you.
Wow. Okay. I look at it like a situation in which Bob Quinn's got to keep a lot of his homegrown guys, and to move on from Taylor Decker would be another bad sign, especially having lost Graham Glasgow. I don't think you can build continuity on your offensive line if you keep moving on from guys. Obviously, the centerpiece is Frank Ragnow, a very underrated player that has transitioned beautifully to the center spot. You got a lot of young guards and tackles there that are going to potentially want to move in and get some playing time. I think the line has potential, and I think the theme for the Lions this upcoming season is potential. Will they actually live up to it? It's yet to be determined, but I think a guy like Taylor Decker is going to be very, very important. I think he'll live up to it. I think he'll play well. I don't see, especially the importance of Matt Stafford's blind side. You got to get out there and protect it. You got to do your job. So I hope that, and here's the risk, and you know it, if he plays well and he doesn't get that contract, along the way, he's probably going to get a little butthurt, and he's going to be like, okay, you don't want to sign me? I'll play great, and I'll bust out. I won't take any of your offers, because that's what these guys like. These guys like to be in the loop, and at least Graham Glasgow, he told everybody along the way, the organization all last year, really didn't talk to him. He's like, oh, I played, and they really just kind of gave him the cold shoulder. He got ghosted by the Lions, and I just hope Taylor Decker, if they decide not to extend him, at least he finds out early, so that he can, react accordingly. But the way the Lions have done it is if they're not interested, they give you the kind of that cold shoulder, and there's not really that many talks, which really left a lot of people scratching their heads like, okay, if you don't want Graham Glasgow, you at least tell him, like, hey, this is why. He up until, I don't know if he's gotten the answer yet, after he moved on, he said, I really don't know why they didn't keep me. I think it was just straightforward. He wanted a lot more money than the organization was willing to pay, because they've now deemed that position that he played a position that they can rotate and fulfill with a bunch of cheaper players. But to not tell him, to leave him in the lurch, was really weird. But that's the way they went down. They kept it professional. I at least hope they don't do that with Taylor Decker, because he has been productive. Unfortunately, just those injury bugs get you. And that position, left tackle, is so tough, the blind side, because, man, you got the likes of Trey Flowers and others, other great defensive ends that are barreling down on you, man. That position's tough. So it's not an easy position, but I think he's poised to do it. I think he'll have a good year. I think he'll be part of the future. Decker, Ragnow, Golladay. That's a core you can start to say, okay, you can move forward with in the next 2 or 3 seasons, but I'm not exactly certain what the commitment level is from. I'm not exactly certain yet what the commitment level is from Bob Quinn at this point in time. When Decker addressed the media, he said, yeah, we like you, and that's been about it. So we'll see how it progresses. But Golladay, and he's going to get paid probably in August. Look for it. Pay attention to SIL Lions, the Detroit Sports Podcast. He about to get paid, and a lot of money too, and he'll be worth it. I think he's been great working with Danny Amendola, the veterans. I think he'll be fine. But nothing comes without a price. His fat contract is going to come at the expense of Marvin Jones, because say goodbye to Marvin Jones. I don't see a scenario unless he takes a nice, healthy hometown deal. Signing Kenny Golladay is going to be at the expense of Marvin Jones, and that's just the NFL bottom line, baby. That's the way it goes.
You can tell that I'm on vacation because I'm over here talking about Frank Ragnow, and we're talking about Taylor Decker. I probably should have did a better job of checking our rundown before I started speaking. But so just to quickly adjust what I was saying.
You said Ragnow. You said Ragnow, that you introduced as Ragnow the whole time?
Yeah.
Well,
Tell I'm on vacation, bro.
That's good.
So real quick, let me just fix what we were talking about. So as far as Taylor Decker goes, for Taylor Decker, I don't feel as strongly about Taylor Decker as I do about Frank Ragnow. Taylor Decker, I could see him getting paid. It's really going to depend on this season. This is kind of a make or break season for him. Too many injuries, and sometimes his performance is really lackluster. So depending on what he does this year, and it's going to depend on what that price is. If the price is right, cool, you can re-sign him. I though would not be opposed to this team re-signing him and then maybe moving him over to your right side and going out there and drafting a new left tackle or bringing another left tackle in, just because I think he'd be better on the right side than he would be on the left side right now. To me, he's okay. I think you can do better. That's my big thing.
Well, the vacation edition of the podcast. That's funny. So you said Ragnow the whole. I didn't hear it. It's interesting. That's funny. That's some funny stuff.
My bad, man.
It's all good. It's all good. Enjoy the vacation, man. We're all a little bit out there this time. We're all in need of a vacation. Just kind of a chance to regroup and reset. But no, the offensive line's interesting with the Lions, and it'll be interesting to see how they gel with Ragnow, Taylor Decker, and the likes of the new cats with Stenberg and Jonah Jackson and things like that.
Let me ask you this. So if you had to, with that offensive line, if there were 2 guys you had to keep, like you couldn't afford to lose them, you feel so strongly about them, who are they?
Obviously, number 1 is Frank Ragnow, and then I think potentially speaking, you could let Taylor Decker go. I would say probably Stenberg. Keep him.
Yeah,
I think he's a young cat that could be moving forward. I would keep the young cats, Stenberg and Jonah Jackson, and just roll with those 3.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird to say that about a rookie who you haven't even seen play yet?
Right, exactly.
I mean, that kind of tells you what Decker's career as a Detroit Lion has kind of been.
Yeah, it needs more. He's got to show out. I think a contract year is a perfect time to show out. That's why I love contract year. That's why I love, really, if sports ever were to make a drastic change, the one drastic change I would make is that all contracts are 1 year. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, all across all sports, in every major sport. That way everybody's hungry every year. And it would make for some wild sports action. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network to listen to his 2 other podcasts. All you got to do is go to your favorite place that you listen to podcasts and type in 3 words, Detroit Sports Podcast. You can hear Doc and Jock, the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast, our baseball podcast. Adam does 2 others called The Practice Squad and The Throwback, where he's revisiting old Lions seasons and reliving great moments, bad moments. He's a glutton for punishment. Not only does he want to live the current version, he wants to go back and relive the tough version. Make sure you listen to the first 9 episodes of The Throwback. Many people have reviewed it positively when Adam and Brendan reviewed the 2011 Detroit Lions season. Stay tuned for more great content from the Detroit Sports Podcast. I appreciate everyone listening and downloading and telling everybody about our project. Greatly appreciate it, cuz. Get back to vacation. We'll talk next week.
All right, brother. Be good.